All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about Jermell Iron Man Charlo basically calling out Terence Crawford for being a fraud. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to be in the 154-pound division, where we are going to talk about Jermell Iron Man Charlo busting out Terence Bud Crawford for clout chasing PBC fighters, growing their names on their back, and not having any intention on fighting them. Now, before I get into that though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, let me say thank you so much for watching the videos. Please make sure that you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And thank you to everybody that supports the channel in the super chats, the cash apps, and in the super thanks of videos like this. Big time shout out to to supporters that are out there. Greatly appreciate you guys for continuing to watch the channel. All right, so let's get into this, man. Jermell Charlo was interviewed ahead of his fight, or for his fight that he has coming up against Tim Tszyu, to defend his undisputed 154-pound championship. And I do believe it's going to be happening in late January. So later on, about a month from now, somewhere around the last week of January, first week of February, one of the two, they got that fight coming up. Should be a very good fight, man. If you're a Jermell Charlo fan, right? Tim Tszyu was a good fighter. I mean, you know, a solid fighter. Wouldn't say he's a great fighter, but to me, he looks kind of like a bigger but less skilled version of Brian Castano. A style that pretty much Jermell Charlo just saw, and the only real chance that Tim Tszyu really has against Jermell Charlo is for him to land some type of big shot and knock out Jermell Charlo. But seeing as Jermell Charlo himself is a very big puncher who can also box, who can fight on the inside, who can fight at mid-range, who can just outscore you for a fight if he really wants to do it. I don't see that happening. However, most definitely looking forward to seeing the undisputed champ back in the ring. So, but in the midst of doing the interviews for it, he was asked about Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is the WBO champion at 147 pounds, who recently fought David Avanesyan. However, also recently turned down the fight against the 3-belt holder in the division, ERROL Spence Jr. So, if you recall, Terence Crawford said a couple things. He said that he was going to fight ERROL Spence Jr., and if he didn't get the ERROL Spence Jr. fight, then he was going to move up and he was going to fight Jermell Charlo. So a lot of back and forth about that, right? Jermell Charlo says, look, in the answers to the questions about whether or not he's willing to fight Terence Crawford, he nips it in the bud and he said, look, man, this guy isn't trying to fight me. He's not serious. He's just using the name of PBC fighters to sell himself. He's going to say that he wants to fight me, but he ain't got any intention on actually fighting me, right? And by the way, you know, basically saying, you know, you did the same thing to ERROL Spence Jr. You had the fight sitting right there, and for whatever reason, you decided to go on and, you know, and fight somebody else. Now, he also acknowledged, and I may not have done it in this particular interview, but he had definitely done it in another one, said, look, man, if the man is trying to get his money, I understand him trying to get his money. It is, you know, it is what it is that he went to try to get his money. But, you know, like it is what it is. You said you wanted to fight that dude. You didn't fight that dude. You say you're going to move up and fight me. You don't move up and try to fight me, right? You go fight David Avanesyan. So pretty much just blows off that whole notion that that Terence Crawford is really serious about making these fights. Now, if this was what month is this? This is December 21st, right? If we were having this conversation on December 10th, right? Or excuse me, on November 10th, I might say, yeah, man, don't know about that. But seeing as he not only did he not fight Errol Spence Jr., right? And he fought David Avanesyan. He also comes out and does exactly yesterday what Jermell Charlo says he does, which is to call out the name of a PBC fighter that you do not intend on fighting. When did Terence Crawford do this? He just did it again, like I said, yesterday, where he puts out a tweet and says that he is looking, that he's ready when Errol Spence Jr. spins the block. Now, he said spin the block, didn't say spin the block, said spin the block. I'm assuming that is, that was maybe he was on his phone and he was talking to his phone and he didn't type. And it came out where his mouth said spin the block, but they thought it was spinned the block. However, to me, sounds like a Freudian slip where you actually say what you mean. Let me know when you're willing to spin the block, which means give me all kind of money to make a fight that more than likely, dog, there's not enough money in the fight to give Terence Crawford what he wants. At least that's what it appears like. It appears like to me. However, the fact that he said that when Errol Spence Jr. has a fight already, basically he's already negotiated a fight, right, against Keith Thurman. Now, let me say that again. He has a fight that he was going to announce that may be Keith Thurman. And the reason that I say that it is probably is Keith Thurman is because the WBC just mandated a fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Keith Thurman, right? So if you mean if you want to spin the block, literally, dude, Errol Spence Jr.'s got to get past Keith Thurman and then come back to Terence Crawford, even though he's more than likely going to have a mandatory. And that mandatory is either going to be another mandatory is either going to be Virgil Ortiz for the WBA, or it's going to be Jaron Ennis for the IBF. Jaron Ennis is about to fight for an interim title again on this undercard for Gervonta Davis, which, if that is the case, he's going to be the interim champion. And according to Steven Espinoza, that means that he will get the mandatory shot for the IBF next, right? So if the WBC isn't buying that Terence Crawford was, insisted on a mandatory because the Terence Crawford fight went away, what's to keep the WBA and the IBF from doing the same thing and not allowing Errol Spence Jr. to really even go through negotiations with Terence Crawford? But to call out Errol Spence Jr., what is it, less than 2 weeks after your fight, when you know he's going to be out, according to his own words, in either to April, May, or June, that fight will take place. And that's a mandatory fight that if he wasn't going to take, he would have to play step aside money to get out of. And if it's and it will be Keith Thurman if it is that mandatory, that's a lot of step aside money to be paying Keith Thurman. Believe it, because Keith Thurman is standing to make a lot of money in that fight. And then you also have to do the same thing. If you don't do it with him, you have to do it with either Virgil Ortiz or Stanionis, or you have to do it with him and Jaron Ennis. So it's just a situation where it doesn't even look like he can get the fight, let alone be talking about it now. So I just think that there may be some credibility to what gives credibility to what Jermell Charlo is saying. And on top of it, notice that Bud didn't say anything about Jermell Charlo. I'm coming to get you, Jermell. How about this? How about Jermell fights in January? You try to fight Jermell, you get your WBO super champion status in order to fight Jermell before you fight Errol, right? Do you think that's going to happen? More than likely not. More than likely it's going to be somebody else, who knows, around the same time Errol fights, because it'll be June, July. It's 6 months before Errol fights. We'll see what happens, though. Anyway, you let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.